Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kodash, Barakatha Yahweh, and Barakatha Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai is the true name of the Heavenly Father's Son, the Son of Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I want to give double honors to my apostles and to my elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and peace and blessings goes to the hopeful elect, my brothers that are out in the highways, pushing his word and his truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Isaiah from GMSLA, and in today's lesson, Lord willing, is edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. But in today's lesson, I just like to speak on some prophecy. All right, when you go into the word prophecy, it basically means to say something before it happens. And what the Lord has is men out in the street corners, and the men I'm referring to are the men of Great Millstone, starting with our apostles, our elders, and us brothers on down. All right, we are the mouthpiece. We are the prophets that the Lord uses to warn of the future judgment that comes to nations and kingdoms, and in this case, the nation that the Lord has his prophets in today's time speaking against is America, which is known as Babylon the Great. All right, and the Lord has his prophets warning of the destruction of America and how the Lord is going to destroy this place via fire through the missiles as well as the chariots. When you go into the book of Jeremiah 28:8, it says right here, right? The Jeremiah chapter 28:8, it says, "The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence." Right. So the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old, right? Like in this case, the prophet Jeremiah, he was sent to prophesy to Israel, to the southern kingdom, all right, about the Babylonians. All right, he prophesied during the time of the Babylonians, and I believe as well with the prophet Isaiah. All right, but it says the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms. Another prophet that comes to mind is the prophet Jonah. He was sent out to prophesy about Nineveh. All right, which his word came to pass during the time of Tobit and Tobias. All right, so it says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms and of war and of evil and of pestilence. So every time a prophet was sent out to speak against a great nation or a great kingdom, it wasn't something good. That's why you had the time with Samuel when he went to Bethlehem, looking for one of the sons of Jesse to be the next king. The elders of that city, when they saw Samuel, they were afraid because they asked him, "Thou comest with peace?" Because when a prophet never really spoke of peace, always spoke of war, destruction, or of judgment that the Lord was going to bring. When you see a prophet sent onto your city, that's how you know you done fucked up, excuse my language. But in this time, what is the Lord sent out his prophets to speak about today, about the destruction of America? All right, and this leads me to this article which says, "Who will blink first? Is nuclear war between Russia and the U.S. possible?" And it is possible. All right, you don't even got to question the market because it's possible. It's all right. It's gonna happen. All right, it's not if. There's no ifs or but. It's going to happen. All right, because this is of the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And as you go into his word, we know that before the Lord does something, he tells you of it. Isaiah 42:9, "Behold, the former things are come to pass." Like, for example, the flood. All right, before the flood happened, the Lord had Noah, which was a prophet as well, a preacher of righteousness, prophesying of the flood. All right, and it took him about 120 years to prophesy. That came out wrong. I meant to say he was prophesying for 120 years because he wasn't just building the ark. He was also prophesying. And he was prophesying, building the ark at the same time for 120 years. All right. But that came to pass. Okay. Because we know that before the Lord does something, he always tells you of them, right? Behold, the former things that come to pass, and new things do I declare. What are some new things? The charagma, all right, and this nuclear war, because nuclear war there's never been a nuclear war here on Earth. No recorded history of a nuclear war where you have nations shooting missiles at each other. All right, that hasn't happened yet. Okay, but that's a new thing, right? It says, before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. And how's the Lord tell you of them? He's not going to come down and you're going to hear a voice from heaven or out of a chariot. No, you're going to hear it by the mouth of his prophets, who the Lord has set up to warn his people of these things to come and what to do in order to be saved from these things. All right. Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this shall be a burning and fuel of fire. And this is how you know this is a new thing, because ancient wars were fought close combat with swords, spears, shields, arrows. Or you use animals like elephants. You had slingshots. All different types of weapons were created for those type of wars in that time. But in today's time, it says, but this shall be with burning fuel of fire, man. Because, hey, back in the ancient world, it says garments rolled in blood, because you had a sword. You go to your enemy, you run to your enemy, you stab them, the blood was splatter on your clothes or even on your face, man. All right, but this war is going to be a burning and fuel of fire. What is that? A nuclear war. All right, because you're going to have one nation that's going to shoot off a missile, and that nation is going to, if they have missiles, going to shoot it back, man. But in this case, it says, who will blink first? Is nuclear war between Russia and the U.S. possible? Who's going to blink first? Russia. All right, because Russia, let's go into it. Let's get into it. Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Right, and it says, so the beast represents the NATO and EU. Having 7 heads represent, 7 major rulerships of Esau, starting with the Greeks. You had the Romans, you had the French, you had the Spaniards, Germanian Major and Germanian Minor. Then you had the Britain. All right, Great Britain. All right, and you had the 10 horns, and the 10 horns, which represents the EU. They had ancient names, but today they have modern names. And if you look at the EU, they have more than 10 nations, and there's a reason for that. But it says 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. What's an example of that? Them saying that they are the God's people, and how God and the Son look like them. That's blasphemy right there. All right, but this is verse 2, the point. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, which this leopard represents Alexander the Great, all right, in the Greek Empire. Okay, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Now, a bear, the feet represents the end of something. All right, the end of a system, end of an empire. All right, and it says the feet of the bear, which represents the Russians, because the Lord is going to use the Russians to end their kingdom. All right, Edom kingdom, with the Russians, they're Edomites as well. Don't get that twisted. All right, so the Lord's going to use the Russians, the bear. They're going to be the one to end Esau's world. All right, so who's going to blink first? Who's going to blink first? The Russians. All right, the Russians. But let me finish that. It says, and I saw, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat in great authority. All right, and the dragon being the mouth of the lion represents Great Britain, because who comes out of Great Britain? You had the elites, the Rothschilds, which they're the ones that really call the shots, and they're the ones that really control everything. All right, so the mouth is Great Britain. All right, And it says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Let's get another scripture. This is, I believe, to be in Jeremiah 51 and 8 or 28. I was looking at it earlier. Jeremiah 51 and 28. It says, prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes. Right? Who's that her that the Lord's going to have these nations come up against? America. All right? Or prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. So the king of the Medes represents the Russians today, which are going to be the captains, which are going to be the head that's going to start off this nuclear war. When you go into verse 28 in the NLT of Jeremiah 51, it says, bring against her the armies of the nations, led by the kings of the Medes, right, the Russians, and all their captains and officers. So all the leaders of these nations, starting with Russia being the head, being the leader, all right, will be the one to start off this nuclear war. All right, this is why the reason why it says all come up against her, all nations, right, come up against her, because Russia's not going to be the only one that's going to join them. That's going to destroy America. You're going to have basically all nations that have nuclear missiles. According to Jeremiah 50 and 9, it says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. And Russia is part of that north country, all right? It says, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. The arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain, right? And the arrows represents the nuclear missiles, all right? The missiles, because remember, this was a vision that these prophets saw, that Jeremiah saw, all right? They just didn't understand what it meant. They didn't understand that it was an arrow, it was an actual nuclear missile. And the reason why they didn't put nuclear missiles, because back then there wasn't no term for it. It wasn't even, nuclear missiles wasn't even, the thought wasn't even put in man's mind yet to create such a weapon. So the prophets, they liken the things that they saw in the visions to what it looked like to them in their time. In this case, Jeremiah likened the missiles onto like arrows. You had Isaiah, he likened them onto like fig trees, or like a fig, falling from a tree. You had John, they also likened them onto stars. So the prophets, they wrote down to what it looked like to them. So keep that in mind. But skip down to 13. It says, because of the wrath, Slakia. We know how to continue. And he says, and Chaldea shall be a spoil, and all that spoil shall be satisfied, say the Lord. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of my heritage. Because ye are growing fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Right, they rejoiced. All right, when Esau took us down, they rejoiced. When they slaughtered us, when they were killing us, they were rejoicing at it, right? It says, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. And the mother is referring to Great Britain, because America came out of Great Britain. Remember that. It says, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished, and his are the plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon. This is the point. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. Right. It says all ye that bend the bow, right? All you that have the nuclear missiles, all you nations. And it's just not nuclear missiles. All right, it says spare no arrows. So that can include nuclear missiles, hypersonic missiles, atomic bombs, all right, atomic missiles, whatever missiles they have, whether it's nuclear or not. All right, they're going to shoot everything. These nations are going to shoot everything they have, because it says spare no arrows. So, all right, not every missile is a nuclear missile. Not every, so every whatever missiles they have, whether it's nuclear or not, they're going to shoot. All right, you got, but let's read that again. It says, put yourselves in array against Babylon. All you that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against the Lord. And it's going to be the one that's gonna lead it off is gonna be Russia, man. Okay, it says some believe that the standoff between Moscow and Washington could eventually see atomic weapons used. Discussions about strengthening nuclear arms control have been ongoing for decades, but have recently receded into the background, with leading powers now hurling direct threats at each other. Despite the obvious catastrophic consequences of a nuclear war in which world leaders have repeatedly noted there would be no winners, Moscow and Washington continue to warn that they are ready to use their arsenals in extreme circumstances. Experts have expressed hope that these statements are nothing more than attempts at blackmail. However, sooner or later, this kind of talk could lead to a critical situation. Well, it could lead to action. It's going to happen. All right? There's no ifs or buts. It's going to happen. All right? We're already in the midst of another Cold War, but these Americans are not paying no mind to it, man. All right? These people don't think that this is evident, that this can happen. They think that, no, that's not going to happen. You know, they know how catastrophic it is. They know that it's a war that no one can win, right? I think they said that in this article. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, they were talking about Russia has only 1,588 deployed warheads, but has larger total inventory than Washington, 5,977 to 5,428, according to the Federation of American Scientists. Now, this is just the number they're telling you. You know these devils. They're not going to give you everything. Here it is. They made America and Russia made a nuclear treaty not to build missiles, right? But here it is. America's been building new nuclear missiles behind the treaty. So, these devils both backstabbing each other, man. All right, and it's gonna happen. All right, it's going to happen. It's evident. You know why it's gonna happen? Because this is the will of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. It's prophecy. The Lord said it's gonna happen. All right, we read it, man. Let me see. Jeremiah 51:28. Right. Let's go back to Jeremiah 51:29. Right, and the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon. What's the purpose that the Lord has for America? For it to be destroyed. All right. To make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. So this is part of the Lord's plan. So despite world leaders trying to make all these treaties, try to make this nuclear war not happen, it's gonna happen because you're not in control. All right, remember, the king's heart is in. Let's read it. It goes into king mind, or it's in Proverbs. I know it's in Proverbs. Let's see if I can find it. King. Right, the Wadi How Bashim Yashai found it. Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whatsoever he will. Right. And the Lord is going to turn all these other nations, these kings, these leaders of these other nations. The Lord is going to have control their mind to destroy this place. He's going to set their mind. The Lord's going to put it in their minds to destroy this place. All right. Just like how when you go into Ezekiel 38, it says, evil thought will come into their mind, of Gog and Magog, where they shall go to the land of unwalled villages, which is America. Well, who's going to put that evil thought? The Lord. The Lord's going to put that evil thought in their mind to invade this place. Just like how the Lord's going to put that evil thought in their mind to destroy it with nuclear missiles. You go to Revelation 17-16, it says, and the 10 horns, right, the EU, right, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore being America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her with flesh and burn her with fire. Right, how is that going to happen? How is America going to be desolate and naked? Via fire, the nuclear missiles. So even their allies, the Lord's going to put it in their minds to destroy this place. It says, for the Most High put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So the Most High put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. What is the will that the Lord has? For America to be destroyed via missiles. And not just America, Israel will be destroyed as well. All right? So the Lord's going to put it in their hearts. So there's really nothing that these nations can do, because the Lord is in control. And the Lord's going to put it in the heart of Russia. All right, Vladimir Putin, which he could be that guy. It's a 90% chance. All right. You can't really see him. Can't really see no other guy leading this for Russia. But he's been in it for years. So Vladimir Putin is a good high chance possibility that he's that guy, that the Lord's going to put it in his mind to shoot missiles at this place. All right. So with that, I ended off with that. Lord willing, edified. I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Shalom.